Live in three, two, one. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Chiefs fans, depending on what time you're listening to this podcast. This is Chiefs Central Radio on the Pro Football Radio Network. I am your host, as always, Jason Seibel, and with me, my partner in crime, my number two on this show, Chris Kilduff. How you doing, Chris?
Pretty good. Enjoying the nice weather over here. You guys
Nice.
doing good over there?
It's hot, man. It's like 97, 98, 99 degrees, and hold on, let's pause for a second. Come here, babe. Say hi. Come here. We're not live. She's saying no.
I know.
She says she looks all retarded. Oh, stop.
Hi. I can't hear you.
I know
Give me that.
you can't.
Oh yeah. Here,
Yeah.
just take him off.
Oh, like I say, you
Working
can't
out.
complain after you paid me for a selfie the other day.
Oh, hold on,
Hold on,
Chris.
we came unplugged.
Hold on. All right, go ahead.
Okay, there you are.
Okay. Are you working now?
Yes.
Okay. No, I was saying you can't complain after you were begging for a selfie yesterday.
I didn't even get it. Let me see. Let me see how this works. So when he talks, it gets big?
Yeah, stop.
Oh.
Talk, Chris.
Do you not have it so it's just on me all the time?
Yeah, it's your big face on the camera the whole time.
No. Yeah,
No,
but when you talk, you have it switching it over to yourself.
Yes, he does have it
Weird.
switching it over to himself.
That's odd.
He says that's odd.
How do you change it? I didn't know you could change it.
I don't know. Mine stays you all the time.
He likes looking at you. You look nice.
I told you
You're
he's getting
sexy.
skinny in the face. I like it.
How many pounds have you lost?
I don't know. I go for my post-op check-in Friday.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. When is your puree phase?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Are you so excited?
Yeah, well, we'll see. Like, I don't know. I mean, like, 'cause right now I've done mashed potatoes and oatmeal, so
How'd you do with the mashed potatoes and oatmeal?
fine. I mean, but anything beyond that's been kind of,
Yeah. How's your incisions and stuff? Does that still hurt like a bitch?
no, it's been pretty good. I mean, they basically just glued them up, and then they haven't really been, like, bad. Like, I didn't get the big long one like you said you got, so.
Yeah, lucky. So, have you thrown up at all? Give me the good stuff. Like, have you thrown up? Have you
I'm not much of a throw-upper, though. No, I've gotten sick. Like I said, I've gotten, like, sick, but I haven't been, like sick to it. But I've never like, even from drinking or anything like that, I've never been really, like,
Yeah.
throw up. I'll just get really nauseous or whatever. And so I've gotten sick a few times from trying to eat, certain things or whatever, but it really hasn't been that bad.
Well, you're making it look way too easy because I was all trying to brace you and make you think it was going to be like the worst fucking thing of your life, but you're making it seem like it's all easy.
The worst thing really for me out of anything is stupid. It's just that everything in the start phase is all sweet food.
Yeah.
Like, not like, I don't have like a huge sweet tooth, so like I'm really just craving something that's like has fucking flavor in it, man.
And who doesn't like V8 though? How can you not like V8? That's like amazing.
I don't know, not my thing. I don't like tomato soup either.
Did you? You're so screwed. Did you ever get your egg drop soup?
No, but I probably will. I'll probably still do that. But I'm trying to get to the point where if I could still just at least do eggs, then
Yeah.
I can like at least do like eggs with cheese and like soft things in it. I don't know.
That was the first thing I did was eggs and refried beans and rice. I was in Mexico, so that was like it. That's all I
Really,
had.
like right after, like you could do stuff that had kind of chunk to it.
No, not. That's what I can't remember. At first, I don't think it was right after. I think it was like a couple weeks after, because I remember doing popsicles and like Gatorade and broth, a lot of chicken broth and beef broth. But then, like, I was still in Mexico. I was only there for 2 weeks, and I remember specifically my aunt made me eggs and like, but she wouldn't. She would like make them over easy and then like cut them up really, really small, just like you would for a baby. And I remember eating that because I remember the salt on them. It was just so amazing. Like, it was the best thing I'd ever had in my life.
Yeah. Salt is something that's like completely non-existent right now. So
Yeah.
even like mashed potatoes, I was just like, oh. And I put garlic salt on them, and I was like, this is so good.
Yeah, but I bet like you're not eating very much at all. It's just a couple bites and then you're full.
Yeah, like basically I can eat. I mean, I can eat like one of the Jello pudding cups.
Mhm.
That's about as much as I can eat of even anything like pudding.
And then you feel full though, like you literally feel
Yeah,
full.
but I don't feel like hungry without it. Like I've yet to
Yeah.
feel like hungry. I felt in my head where I'm like, man, I really wish I could taste this, but it hasn't been like.
Mhm.
And they said you don't get that back for like a year. Is that kind of about right?
Yeah, I mean, you have to, but that's the thing. That's where it's like the mind fuck because you're not going to necessarily feel hungry, but you're going to feel weak. So you got to tell yourself that like you need to eat,
I've
you need
definitely felt weak. I've gotten to the point like since you don't do it, like if you're not busy, I felt like okay, if you're not busy, like you can sit there and you can kind of tell, okay, well I should probably eat something. But then there's been a
to.
couple days where I've been really busy, and then I realize, fuck, I haven't ate all day, and
Yeah,
then you can
exactly.
tell
And then you're going to be
like
exhausted. You're not going to have any energy.
yeah, it's weird. And
Are
then
you
I've
do you
noticed
mean
that too.
like vitamin shots or B12 or anything?
I'm taking chewable supplements for. I have like gummy B12, and I have chewable calcium, and
Flintstone vitamins.
not Flintstones, but I'm a grown ass man, Annabelle.
You keep telling me that. I'm not sure where this is coming from. You keep telling me he's a grown-ass man. I'm not sure where this is coming from.
Just because you're married to this man child.
This is a man-child. He can't hear you. Well, you need to make it so he can hear you. He's talking such mad shit right now. He can't hear you. Well, anyways. Okay, I'm going to let y'all get to it.
All right,
So, all right, Chris, it's good talking to you. We'll talk to you later.
peace out, yo.
And make it, babe, so that it doesn't go back and forth. That is weird. It's
I don't know
like,
how to do that.
well, what are you guys in?
We're in Hangout.
No, because it's like when he talks, he's up, and then when you talk, no, it's not working.
Mine just does it automatically. I have
Really?
me. I have me down in the bottom right hand corner, a little tiny me like on Skype, and then
Yeah.
big you full time.
Oh, hold on. Control room. Dial guests up, down, or off. Okay, hold on a second. Okay.
Did you have to download something for your program?
We need to. Oh no. I don't know. That's not it. That's not what I want.
I need to make my lunch. Give me a kiss. Play.
Hmm.
All right, bye, Chris.
See ya.
All right. All right, let's see here. It is a little weird.
Yeah, I mean, mine does that if we have. I know what you're talking about because mine does that if we have another person on. It'll switch between you and him depending upon who's talking. But when it's just us two, you stay up.
No, that ain't it. I don't know, dude. I'll dig with it later. All right, let's try this again here. You good? Can you hear me? We okay?
Yep.
All right. In 3, 2, 1. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Chiefs fans. Welcome to Chiefs Central Radio on the Pro Football Central Radio Network. I'm your host, Jason Seibel. With me, as always, my partner in crime, my number 2, Chris Kilduff. What's up, Chris?
Hey, man, what's going on?
Nada, just moving through here. Training camp is back. Football is back. It's a beautiful day, brother.
Oh man, you're telling me, is it inches closer? You start getting excited when you have to start planning out your fantasy draft and stuff like that. Like, I feel like the ball's kind of rolling a little bit. You start getting that training camp news, and it starts inching closer.
Well, it's funny talking about training camp news. As we've gone through this off season, it has been, zilch in terms of Chiefs news for anything in the off season. Whether it was free agent signings or anything really. It's just there's been nothing going on, and it seems like the last couple of days with everybody kind of coming back to training camp, it is like the floodgates have opened, and now it's all kinds of news. And, of course, the biggest news story and the first thing that we're going to talk about, this just broke right before you and I went on, went into the studio to record this episode, is allegedly Jamal Charles's people have been talking to John Dorsey and the Chiefs about a contract extension, and there is word that perhaps Charles may sit out of training camp until that deal is done. Chris, thoughts?
Well, you kind of hope that's not the case, especially since you've kind of seen that, people like Justin Houston even have been talking about showing up, it's just nice to kind of feel that you think that Jamal Charles has faith that, we're going to take care of him. I think he is the number one guy that the Chiefs plan on, taking care of. I can't imagine them ever not getting him what he deserves. So it's unfortunate. I hope it doesn't have to happen that way, especially since we're still trying to get, Alex and Justin's contracts done here sometime this year. That might really kind of throw a wrench in how all that plays out.
Well, let me ask you the question, Chris, before I give my kind of 2 cents on this. Does Charles deserve an extension? And before you answer, he's slated to make about 2.7 mil this year and 4.5 next year. He's got 2 years left on his deal. Does he deserve an extension? Does he deserve more money right now?
I would say if you can't say he doesn't deserve it. I mean, the guy has put up phenomenal numbers and has done amazing, well beyond what we could ever expect him or want him to do, especially with, he's the one scoring all our points. Unfortunately, once again, it's a business, and I'm one of those people that feels like if you sign a contract, you should live out that contract. There's lots of people that say, yada, 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 you can, try and restructure and all this. But I really feel that, in major positions, you have to take the contract you're dealt. Coming back 2 years out for a restructure, knowing that there's, both other contracts on the table, that gets tricky to me, man. I'm not sure.
No, I'm with you, and that's kind of where I'm at with this too. Charles is the offense. He's 40% of the offense last year, and he's a big part of what this team is. But here's my take on it: you are replaceable, brother. I hate to say it. But for every Priest Holmes, there's a Larry Johnson waiting in the wings, man. For every Jamal Charles, there's a Nile Davis or whatever. And that's kind of where I'm at. Is Charles, if he doesn't play, if he holds out, what is it? Well, it's next man up. You ask Andy Reid, and he's going to tell you, I can only talk about the guys that are here to train, and I can only talk about the guys that are here to practice. If Charles does not show up to camp, and Nile Davis gets the first team reps, or DeAnthony Thomas, or Cyrus Gray, or any of these camp bodies that are going to be there.
Well, Andy Reid, he's probably the epitome of a no-nonsense coach too. I mean, he definitely has proven in the past that he definitely doesn't like people playing games. So who's to say that doesn't happen? I'm not 100% sure, but I totally believe that it's going to be a non-issue. I think Charles will show up. I think we'll get him restructured next year, and I think we'll get Justin and Alex structured this year.
Well, and let's hope that's the case. And the signs of Justin Houston, who's the next kind of guy in line there, signs are pointing that he's going to be at camp. And by the time this airs, we should hopefully know. It is Tuesday evening as we record this. Wednesday tomorrow, all the vets will be showing up at camp, and then of course Thursday is the first full training camp practice. Heading into the weekend. So Houston, by all reports, and according to our good friend of the show, Terrence Paylor, who we had on as a guest a couple weeks ago, has tweeted out that Houston has not changed his mind, that he will indeed be showing up to camp, and that's been corroborated by several other sources within the NFL. So it looks like even in the absence of a deal, Justin Houston will be at camp. And, of course, the third guy that we've been talking about with these contract negotiations and quarterback Alex Smith, he's been at camp. He went through the OTAs, he went through the mini camp, and then he's been at camp since I think Sunday is when the quarterback started camp, and he's been there doing his thing, even in the absence of an extension. So he's kind of all in on this, and he's said he wants to stay in Kansas City. Obviously, if the price is right. So of those three, Chris, just to kind of close the loop on these contract talks, what's your 1, 2, 3 in regards to signing these guys?
Well, I think I mean Justin Houston's the obvious one. I mean I've been pretty vocal even in past shows here that Justin Houston, out of anybody in the NFL, deserves a contract. He's been making pennies and been performing extremely well. So I think we pay him. I think, like I said a minute ago, I think we get him done. I think we get Alex done. I'm hoping, like I said last show, that we get Alex done for a little bit smaller. Alex wanting a 6-year. I'm hoping for more of a 4. And then, we restructure Jamal next year. I think Jamal's going to get paid again. I think the Chiefs know what they have there, and as irreplaceable as that position is with lots of talent out there, I don't think you can replace it to the nth of the degree, with the receiving game and his durability and those types of things. So I think the Chiefs are willing to flesh that out as long as Jamal's patient.
One last thing on this, and then we'll move on, Chris. If Jamal sits, absolute worst case scenario, he misses camp and he even sits out into the season. What does the Chiefs' offense look like without Jamal Charles?
Well, it's Andy Reid getting to go back to his West Coast offense and really play a lot of that short pass game. I think we lose a lot of between the tackle running. Knile Davis has looked good in flashes, so I think he'll be able to take some of that first down, second down, hard nose running a little bit, but I think it just changes a little bit in our tactics for how we play the between the tackle running, and hopefully, like I said, that just doesn't come to be.
No, hopefully it doesn't. You know what I say that the Chiefs' offense looks like without Jamal Charles? 518 yards, 5 touchdowns, 44 points. Because that's what it was in the wild card game without Jamal Charles.
Yeah, no, I mean I agree. I think
it's saying.
He, like I said, he's super talented, and I mean we don't have anybody that can replace him. And the big thing, obviously, with Jamal Charles is that red zone touchdown ratio. He's someone like our Priest Holmes was for us, where he just has a nose for the end zone, and this is a team that needs that because we don't have very many other people who can do that.
No, I agree, and I don't, listeners, I don't want you to think that I am advocating against Jamal Charles or think we should get rid of Jamal Charles by any means. I love the guy. He is right now. He is that lifeblood of the Chiefs. All I'm saying is, in the NFL today, the way it's set up, running back is, as far as skill position goes, is probably one of the most replaceable positions on the team. Gone are the days of these huge multi-million-dollar running backs. I think Adrian Peterson is probably the last one that has one of those exorbitant, huge contracts. Marshawn Lynch in Seattle's going through the same thing right now. He's not making the money of a quarterback or a receiver or even a cornerback. He was going to hold out for more money, and he's making $5.5 million this year. Running backs are replaceable. This running back by committee is kind of en vogue in the NFL now, and they're going to find somebody to replace you. And as you said, Chris, Knile Davis showed some definite spark in spurts, and he played well in that wild card game. He played very well in the Week 17 matchup against the Chargers when Reid sat all the starters from the Chiefs. Is he the Larry Johnson to the Priest Holmes analogy that I made earlier? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's tough to say with the limited time that he saw the field, but he could be. He could be the Jamal Charles to Larry Johnson analogy. I mean, Charles came out of nowhere, a third-round draft pick. So, who's to say? But I'm with you on this one. I'm hoping that this never comes to pass, that come tomorrow afternoon, Wednesday afternoon, we find out Charles is at camp. He's ready to practice. They're going to continue to negotiate a deal, and I'm good with that. I'm good with continuing to negotiate a deal, and I hope that it doesn't come to pass.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I need to pause real quick. I got to go grab the charger from my laptop, so I'll edit this out. I'll be right back.
All right.
Okay, as we move out of the talk of who may or may not be at camp, one thing I want to talk about is who's definitely at camp and who's definitely going to be on the team, Chris, as we go through this. And you and I kind of have a sketched out roster that we've both been working on the last week and a half or so. So that's kind of the next thing that I just really want to kind of go through, man, is see where you're at as far as who are locks to make the roster. There's 90 guys on the roster right now as camp is getting ready to really get underway the end of this week. By the end of August, that roster will be 53, okay? So we are at, looking at 37 people who aren't going to be on this team that are right now, and that's even plus or minus a few because of the fact that they're going to probably pick up guys that are cut from other teams or whatever, but really and truly, from 90 to 53, and I just kind of want to get your take on, and we'll go through the positions here, and just give me kind of a couple here that you think are locks, and we'll start obviously with the wide receivers out wide. Who are your locks? No kidding, to make the roster this year.
Well, wide receiver is probably the toughest position to start at because I think we have so many questions there. Obviously, Bo's not going anywhere. I think he's definitely a lock. Besides him, a lot of people will say Donnie Avery just because he makes sense as the number 2 there. But I really think even number 2 is completely open here. I can't imagine that there's another wide receiver on this team right now without going into training camp that is a lock 100% on the team. I think there's some guys that, we talked about Weston Dressler, just because of his speed, that there's going to be a spot for him. Even if he's not that number 2 or the slot guy or whatever, that just because of his speed and skill set, that he might be a lock on the team. But, I guess I don't think personally you can say any of these guys besides Bo is probably the way, the for sure bet there.
Yeah, no, obviously Bo's the lock. I've actually got A.J. Jenkins as my number 2 receiver penciled in there. I've got him beating out Avery. And I think that Avery actually might be in jeopardy of not making this roster this year.
He could be, yeah.
I think that there's a very distinct possibility that he could find himself on the outside looking in, especially, as Tara's kind of told us earlier, in an earlier episode, kind of with Junior Hemingway really stepping up in a big way. You mentioned Weston Dressler. Depending on how they decide to use DeAnthony Thomas, if is he going to be a running back, is he going to be a receiver? I'm hoping, and the A.J. Jenkins thing is kind of just a hope for me, wishful thinking that he's going to really step up and show his.
I would love that. Yeah.
Show his speed, show his hands, but I think
he's who should be our number 2. You know what I'm saying?
The guy's a former number 1, not number 1 overall, but a former first round draft pick. He really should be, and so but I'm with you. I think Bo's the only lock at receivers. Moving to the tight end position. Who do you got there? There's 4 of them to choose from, 4 main ones to choose from. Who do you think is no kidding is going to be a lock this year? Do you have one?
Once again, you're starting with the tough ones here, Out of these guys, I really have to start seeing how they perform. It's tough. I personally think the best choice out of all these guys, if everybody's healthy and they come in right now, is Fasano, just because he has the skill set. We know what he can do. He's that veteran, guy in there. Everyone else we really haven't seen. We know what McGrath does. He can show up and, fill that spot, but he's not the talent we're looking for. Kelsey, we know that he's like this superstar guy that has such an upside, but we don't really know. We haven't got to see any of it yet. So, a lot of these guys that are like these big name guys can come in, and we've been playing around with that position so much. But I really don't think anyone's a lock here. I think it can kind of go either way depending on how the performances are.
Yeah, I'm only going to say Anthony Fasano is a lock to make the roster, not necessarily even be the starter. Maybe he loses that starting job, but I'm going to say Fasano's a lock.
Veteran status for sure.
Yeah, well, the veteran status and just the amount that his contract is. I mean, I don't think that they can really afford to cut him at this point. Um, I don't have his exact contract numbers in front of me, but I mean, it's a pretty significant cap hit to where that there would be some significant dead money if they cut him. So I'm going to say Fasano is a lock at tight end. Beyond that, yeah, I think it's a tough call. You know, with Kelsey, Sean McGrath, and then this kid Demetrius Harris that everybody's high on, the former basketball player. Everybody's comparing to, you know, kind of a. They haven't really said Tony Gonzalez, you know, but Antonio Gates, kind of a player that, you know, from San Diego. So, but yeah, I've got Fasano locked in.
Yeah,
locked
I mean
in
that makes
there.
sense. I mean, the nice thing that we touched based on Fasano previously too is, you know, previously, I mean, we haven't seen it yet, but he's been that red zone guy too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whereas that's something we've really struggled with.
Well, you know, with the tight end position especially, it's tough. And you mentioned this, it's really tough to kind of evaluate this position, only because so much injury. You know, there were so many injuries last year to that position. You know, or well, yeah, last several years. But with the guys that are on the roster right now, you know, Kelsey obviously missed the whole season with a microfracture in his knee. You know, Fasano missed significant time here and there. You know, and it got down to the point where McGrath is the starting tight end, and they're signing guys off the street, you know, who are bagging groceries at Piggly Wiggly to come in and play tight end for him because, you know, they're that desperate at the position. So
Hey, that guy at the Piggly Wiggly was pretty good.
I mean, so it's going to be an interesting it'll be an interesting battle, I think, to see these four tight ends. And then, you know, come August, you know, come the middle end of August, it's going to be interesting to see how many they keep. If they go with 3, which is usually the norm on a roster, if they end up keeping 4, which wouldn't be a bad idea considering the injury history that some of those guys have. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
But, you know, even if they, you know, let go of someone like Sean McGrath, I don't know if he's going to be picked up anywhere. You know, I mean, he's someone they might be able to get back.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think tight end talent's always being looked at in the NFL, and I think that based off of what he was able to show last year, I mean, the guy did catch 2 touchdowns and, you know, had some significant plays, and he's a good blocker. I think that he would be written off as a loss even if they try to move him to the practice squad. I think he'd be written off. Any of those guys, even Demetrius Harris, from what everybody's saying right now, that either they keep him or they accept the fact that he's gone. That based off of the hype from his OTAs and everything else, and kind of what this you know, enigma that they built around him, that he's gone. He's not going to survive even a practice squad move that a team will come in and pick him up.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I felt that McGrath is going to be the one to go, that we're going to end up with, you know, him, Kelsey, and Fasano.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think if they keep 3, I think that's probably a pretty accurate, you know, a pretty accurate depth chart for tight end. So, all right, man, I'll throw you a softball here. Quarterback. I mean, obviously Alex Smith. Alex Smith sticks around. I think Chase Daniel sticks around. But then you got Tyler Bray and Aaron Murray. You know, Bray signed as an undrafted free agent last year, who everybody thought was going to be the guy of the future. And then, you know, the Chiefs turn around and pick up Murray in the 5th round this year. You know,
Murray's going to stay. Murray, I mean, I think there's better chance that I think there's better chance that Chase Daniel goes than Murray going.
Interesting.
Just because the fact that I think they've seen a little bit what, you know, Chase can do. You know, I mean, he hasn't gotten considerable playing time or anything, but I think that they have, you know, they've seen what he can do in the practice squads. I know they like the guy, but I think that they're interested in seeing, you know, what they can do with Murray, you know, and I would be surprised if one of the 2 went. You know, I personally think they'll probably keep the 3 of them. I think we'll have Bray will go, and we'll have Alex Smith, Chase Daniel, and let Aaron Murray kind of follow up the pack there.
Yeah, I wrote an article at Bleacher Report that posted yesterday, a couple days ago, and I talked about this in depth in regards to the Bray Murray kind of quarterback battle. You know, and when you're talking about a 3rd string quarterback battle, I know it's not as exciting as who the starting quarterback is going to be, but it's definitely going to make the fourth quarter of these preseason games interesting. When you're evaluating how these guys are playing and you're looking at, but you bring up an interesting point about Chase Daniel. I mean, he played very well in that Week 17 game against the Chargers, much better than I think anybody expected him to. And perhaps he's the, I won't say he's the ace in Andy Reid's pocket, but maybe the jack of clubs or something where he's thinking, maybe this guy's worth some trade value. Week 1, Week 2, Week 3, if the quarterback goes down, they offer him up as trade bait. And maybe they hold on to 4 quarterbacks in the hopes that they're gonna trade Chase Daniel off, or maybe they're content with having him and they just and they're gonna drop one. And I think that you're right. I think Murray beats out Bray in the end. I think Murray is a little bit more put together. I think his mechanics are a little bit better. Bray's got a cannon of an arm, and he can throw the ball 65 yards. But that's not necessarily what you need in Andy Reid's offense, and I think that's
especially for our team. I mean, that's just not the style we're playing, but
it's not, and and I think that Reid knows that. But I think anything can happen, and I think that there's truly going to be a competition in camp. So, that's going to be. I mean, that's really going to be an interesting one to watch. Fullback, really, that there's no question there. I think Anthony Sherman is the lock at fullback. I don't see anybody taking him out of there.
No, and they're not going to even keep anybody else there, especially with the tight ends that we have. We got to make sure that we got to have that extra roster spot.
Right. Running backs could be interesting this year. Obviously, beyond Jamal Charles, you're looking at several several options for running backs to hold on to. What's your take on this running back?
Running back does get interesting. Obviously, I think Knile Davis has proved that he's that dude.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody is going to come in and take anything from him. But I'll tell you what, Joe McKnight is no joke either. I think he's got some talent there. Cyrus Gray, I'm not big on him. I really don't see him being any sort of a talent that we can use. I've never been big on the guy. I haven't really seen him do much of anything that's impressed me. But where I think it becomes really tricky is DeAnthony Thomas, his position on how they're going to use him. I personally don't really see them using him as a running back at all. I think he's going to be used maybe every once in a while on some slot receiver reverse style type plays. He's just going to be that kind of new position they've dubbed in the NFL, just that, kind of that all-purpose player that you're just going to try and find ways to get balls to. There seems to be a bunch of people popping up in that style of position, and he's one of those guys, just you want to get the ball to him. So I don't think he's going to really count against us on the running back, but then we have to make sure we keep that position, that roster spot open there somewhere.
Yeah, I'm with you on Gray. He's never impressed me, ever. And he definitely had his flubs, in that playoff game last year against the Colts, or earlier this year, I should say. Unfortunately, Joe McKnight is going to start out the season on the physically unable to perform list. He's still nursing a hamstring injury the first couple days of camp, and so
which really helps us, truthfully.
Yeah, because they can hold on to him. Yep, absolutely. They're going to be able to hold on to him. I think that they keep 3 running backs, and I think that the 3 running backs that they keep are Charles Davis and DeAnthony Thomas. I think that they're going to list him as a running back on the roster, and those are the 3. Obviously, Charles and Davis are going to get the bulk of the carries.
They did that same thing with McCluster. He was listed, as a running back as well.
Yeah, I think that's how it's going to flow. I think that those 3 are gonna be the running backs, and it's going to go from there. Let's move over to the defense and take a look at those. Obviously, the linebacker slots are pretty well set. as far as locks there. Obviously Houston and Holly make this roster. I don't think there's any doubt in anybody's mind.
Well, unless they decide not to sign Houston, I guess.
He still has to play out this year. I mean, unless he doesn't want to get paid this year. But
I don't know. I don't think if they don't give him a contract, I don't know if he plays. Like that. That's just. I mean, if the Chiefs don't find a way to make that happen, I mean, I think he's coming to training camp under the guys he knows it's going to happen.
But if he doesn't play, and the reason he's coming to training camp, because if he doesn't, then he loses credit for his 4th year as under his rookie contract. Then he's got to play another year.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that with the rookie contract.
That's how those accrued years, to get that status to be a free agent, unrestricted versus restricted. You got to accrue a certain amount of time, and that's. I mean, I really think that it's not necessarily he knows. I mean, maybe he does. They're probably closer than maybe we think they are in regards to getting a deal done, but. He's got to come to training camp or he's going to lose out on that accrued year, and then he's, in restricted free agency versus unrestricted. It goes down that road. But no, I mean, yeah. But these guys both make the roster. I mean, there's not a doubt in my mind that they're going to make the roster.
Oh yeah, all 3 of them. Derek Johnson, Tamba Hali, Derek Johnson, Justin Houston. I mean, I think all 3 of those guys are easily locks. I mean, they're all 3 Pro Bowlers, so you can't.
Well, you know what, though? I actually am going to go out on a limb and say Holly is not a lock, only because they drafted D Ford, and Holly's getting older, and, I mean, something happens. I mean, if we're talking about guys that beyond a shadow of a doubt are going to make this roster, I would say Houston is a lock, that Holly is not necessarily a lock. Could you imagine them?
I would be blown away. I would really be blown away.
We were blown away when they cut Flowers.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that move right there shows that nobody's safe.
But Flowers was coming off a hard season though too. I'm saying, like, Holly came off a pretty damn good season.
No, you're right. I mean, the dude had 11 sacks, and I mean, he was hardcore. He scored a couple touchdowns. I mean, what?
It was really? 11 sacks in what? 12 games? I mean,
yeah. No. Right? Absolutely. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I'm not saying that I think he's going to get cut or that he should get cut or anything, so don't
out there. I don't think so. I think all 3 are a lock. I don't think they're going anywhere. I think they're going to be set to go. I think that other inside linebacker, probably Joe Mays starting there.
I think you've got to start Mays there with what they're paying him and what he brings to the table. Have you watched any tape on him?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He's the dude that tore Matt Schaub's earlobe off.
Oh yeah, he's a bad man. He's no joke. He's not one of those guys. We have a couple guys that are kind of under the radar here on this defense. I think he's one of them. I think I've really liked everything I've seen from Zombo. I think he's really stepped up and been a solid guy when we've had injuries. I mean, he hasn't been, any sort of like huge wow player, but I think us picking up Vance Walker, I think he's one of those guys that's really. I mean, we're away from the linebacker position now, but he's one of those guys that he has looked great. He knows our division, and I think we have a couple people who I think are going to have some good breakout years just because there's so much talent on this defense already that it's just going to allow these other guys to really shine.
No, I agree. I loved the Vance Walker signing when it happened. I think that he's going to bring a lot, and I mean, he said something in an interview right after he got signed, and he said, "Listen, when you have Tamba Hali, Justin Houston, Dontari Poe, me, and maybe Eric Berry rushing the passer, guess what? You can't double team us all.
Yeah.
So figure it out, offenses. Who are you going to put 2 guys on? Because you can't put 2 guys on everybody."
Yeah. No, and it's the truth. I mean, that's what. And the nice thing about Walker is, I mean, even if he's not rushing the passer, he's done a decent job. I mean, he's had some great sack numbers even by himself. I mean, I think he had 6 sacks last year himself.
Mm-hmm.
When he was in Oakland. I think that was right. And so, I mean, he does have that pass rush, but he's just a huge run fill too. I mean, he's been amazing. When he was in Atlanta previously, he was just, that's what his job was to just shut down that inside run game. And if we can do that, then it allows those pass rushers to even do their job more. So he kind of goes both ways there.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a huge addition. You know, and the Chiefs, they so rarely play. I mean, they're technically classified as a base 3-4 defense, but they so rarely stay in that base 3-4 set. They're constantly moving guys around and, you know, bringing safeties up and putting linebackers in coverage, you know, blitzing cornerbacks, blitzing safeties. It's really going to be interesting to see you know, how they utilize all these players. So let's move back into the defensive secondary and cornerbacks, because this, I think, is going to be the most interesting of positions in training camp is the cornerbacks. What are you thinking there?
Well, I think besides wide receiver, this is the biggest up in the air position, just because this is what just cut our throat last year. You know, we know we had big problems. I think now they've addressed it. You know, we're now don't have Flowers, we don't have Demps, we don't have what's his face?
Robinson, Dante Robinson.
Dante Robinson. You know, they really kind of gutted us back there, and so I think they were planning on really doing some moving around. You know, I think, you know, Sean Smith probably has that number one. I can't imagine it going anywhere else. I know they're really looking for that size. Once again, I mean, that's kind of why we have like Marcus Cooper, Philip Gaines. You know, I think we have a lot of really talented guys there, so it's going to definitely be interesting. You know, I don't know if anybody. I say Sean Smith will probably be a lock. I can't imagine them going another direction. They know him. They know what he brings to the table. But I really don't know what else they're going to do. I think it's going to really depend. I think that spot's going to be up for quite a bit of battle.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Just based on Sean Smith's contract alone, I don't see them cutting him this year.
Yeah.
They could. I mean, they, like you said, you know, if Flowers taught us anything, it's that anybody is vulnerable. But yeah, I don't see Sean Smith getting cut. I do see an interesting battle forming, though, on the, you know, whatever opposite side of Smith, you know, and it's really, in my mind, kind of a two, maybe a three-way battle. Marcus Cooper and Ron Parker, I think, are your two biggest competitors for that quarterback number 2 spot. And then, you know, I think Philip Gaines is in that mix as well as a rookie, depending on what he's able to do. But I think it's really between Ron Parker and Marcus Cooper.
I don't think Philip Gaines will be that number 2 slot. I think they plan on using his speed. I mean, he's a real fast guy, and I think they know we need some speed. So I think he's going to end up being one of those nickelbacks that really is going to be put one-on-one with those real speed receivers, and probably playing a lot of man-to-man with them.
Yeah, well, and let's hope. I mean, at 185, 6'1", 185, the kid needs to eat a sandwich. I mean, he really could stand to put on a couple pounds.
He's tiny.
Yeah, that's going to be a very interesting battle to see how that one, you know, shakes out. And then, of course, as you move further back, strong safety. I mean, obviously the starting position there is locked down. Eric Berry is not going anywhere. Nor should he. He is arguably one of the best safeties in the NFL, able to play kind of everywhere. But obviously the free safety position, this team has had issues with over the last few years. You know, Kendrick Lewis had some good moments. I'm not going to completely bag on Kendrick Lewis, but you know, by the end of last season, Lewis was more of a liability than an asset. And really let this team down in that playoff game against the Colts. Now they're kind of without, you know, any kind of a known entity at free safety. Is it going to be Hussein Abdullah? Is it going to be Sanders Cummings? You know, who, much like Kelsey, we didn't get to see anything from last year. Just, you know, after all the hype and everything else. You know, what are you thinking there at free safety?
I think that's something that's why we have training camp. You know, I mean, let the guys play. Let them scrimmage and see, who puts up those numbers. I mean, I feel like that's one of those positions where productivity counts. I mean, if you're going to go in there, go improve, go take that spot. Neither of those guys has a name that's going to, just give them the ability to just take that position over. I think you really got to see production one way or the other to give somebody that position.
What roster battle are you looking forward to the most as we move into training camp? I mean, really, truly, I mean, it's starting. We're here.
Yeah, wide receiver for me. I mean, we started there, and that's the big one for me. I'm really, since we even talked about it, 2 episodes ago when we went over the draft, and we didn't take the wide receiver there. Ever since the draft, that's the first thing that's been on my mind. Who's going to be our number 2? Who's going to be our number 2? I really feel like that someone has to step up. I'm with you. I really hope it's A.J. Jenkins. Like, that would be, if he can come in and start playing some really good football and get off the ground like he hasn't, yet in the NFL, I would absolutely love to have someone with his upside and his ability to take that position. But I think between wide receiver and between cornerback, I'm even really interested in tight end just because I really, with all the hype that we have around Kelsey, I hope he turns out. I saw they were even had him in long snapping the other day, so they were like testing him, and he's like, well, I long snapped when I was in like junior high, and they were like, well, we're going to test you because we don't have a long snapper on the roster. So,
actually, that brings up a good point. One position that we didn't mention is special teams and the kicker. For the first time in a couple years, the Chiefs have 2 kickers. Yeah, there's 2 kickers on the roster right now. Obviously, Ryan Suckup, who's been the Chiefs kicker since he was drafted, Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick of the draft in 2009. And this year they've brought this kid, Cairo Santos, former football star out of Brazil, who played, I know your favorite sport besides NFL, who played, he was place kicker at Tulane in New Orleans. So, and I'm looking forward to that, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But discussing wide receiver, I was just looking right now as we speak. The Chiefs have 13 wide receivers on the roster, on the camp roster. Obviously, we talked about Dwayne Bowe, we talked about Donnie Avery, Dressler, Junior Hemingway, A.J. Jenkins. Those guys are kind of the ones that you talk about, and I mean, maybe at the end of the day, those are the 5 or 6 guys that do make this roster. But there's a lot of guys on there that that are quote unquote camp bodies that could potentially steal a roster spot from somebody if they if they perform. I think last year the big surprise is Terrence Copper has been on this roster forever as a wide receiver, mainly a special teamer, and then a guy like Junior Hemingway comes in and just really kind of tears it up in preseason, and all of a sudden he finds himself on the roster, and I'm, just kind of looking at this roster, seeing who that next guy is going to be. One name that we've heard a lot about is Frankie Hammond. He was on the practice squad last year. Terrace Paylor said that he showed some flashes in the mini camp and the OTA. Mark Harrison is a guy that they brought over that is a former New England Patriot. You and I kind of talked about him. Any guy that the Patriots thought was good enough to take a look at is worth taking a second look at, I think. So.
Yeah, that's why I asked him when we were asking him questions. I asked about him just because, and he's a big guy. He's 6'3", and giving us some more height in that position where, we really don't have a lot of height in comparison to other NFL teams. We have a very short wide receiver group in comparison to other teams. So
no, you're right.
That height is important. And then, like you were saying, obviously, I think a lot of that's going to be round up by special teams, So you got to kind of even give an upside a little bit to the guys out there, even though he's shorter, like Kyle Williams, just because he is a proven, minus maybe a game or two for the 49ers where he was dropping the ball, but he's been that proven, guy on special teams that's making, getting plays done. So
yeah, absolutely. You look at this. Do you got a number of how many wide receivers you think the Chiefs hang on to?
I say, I don't know. I would be surprised. I would say we got Bo, um, Avery. I still say we're keeping Avery, speed guy. I like there. Hemingway. I think we keep Jenkins just because the upside. We're hoping he's going to turn out. Then I would be surprised. Like I said, someone. Kyle Williams, maybe one of those guys like Harrison or Hammond. I'd say probably 6, 7, 7.
I think seven's high. I think it's probably closer to five,
You
actually.
think so?
Yeah,
I guess
I
so.
think.
With a lot of these, I mean, like I said, you're probably right in the fact that we probably are going to have to use one of those to keep Anthony Thomas. I mean, if he's going to be playing that kind of mix, running back, wide receiver, I mean, you're going to have to cut some of those roster spots from somewhere.
Yeah, I think without seeing a snap of preseason ball, I think that we keep Avery, Bo, Dressler, Hemingway, Jenkins. There's five, and I think Kyle Williams is right on the bubble in regards to if they keep a sixth receiver or not. But I think that they keep.
That's my initial thought was 6. I was thinking 6. But you're right. I mean, it matters. It probably matters what they do special teams wise too, because obviously they're big in return game guy McCluster is gone. So, depending on what they do back there, Kyle Williams has a background in that. But then we know, we have Weston Dressler has a background in that, and then DeAnthony Thomas, obviously, the Black Mamba. You want to get him the ball as much as possible. So.
Well, and don't forget, Nile Davis was returning kickoffs last year too.
That's true.
And I think, you talk about special teams, and that's a way that a lot of these bottom, quote unquote, bottom of the roster guys, that's how they're going to make this team is show a flash on special teams. Can you return the ball, Kyle Williams? Can you return the ball and hold on to the ball, Kyle Williams, that kept the 49ers out of the Super Bowl in 2000, whatever it was, 11. Because if you want a roster spot, you're really truly probably going to be the sixth receiver on this roster, but we're going to keep you around because you can return kicks under Dave Taub's system. I think that's there. No, I'm with you. I'm excited for that wide receiver battle. That's always great. Obviously, the tight ends. That's what I played in high school and whatnot was tight ends. So that I kind of look forward to that roster battle. I look forward to seeing this Demetrius Harris kid and really what he can do. Everybody's so high on him right now, and he's kind of a raw talent, but he's getting the coaching and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to definitely looking forward to seeing what he's got in regards to bringing to the Chiefs. Running backs, I think that the running backs are what they are. I think that's going to be a lot of the same of what we've seen. One position battle that I'm really excited to watch, and we didn't talk about this as locks. We didn't get into the offensive linemen very much, but this right guard, Zach Fulton, that the Chiefs drafted in the 6th round this year. Have you looked at him, read up on this kid?
Yeah, once again, he's someone that's getting a lot of hype. Someone that's a lot of people have a real big upside on, and then obviously between him and Lincolnbach, the vet, I'm down for having a guy in there who's spent a lot of time in that Colts offense. They've been really solid on offensive line with Manning and Luck. Luck's crossed over and has had some really good protection too. So I think he's a really good, solid guy to have. And if we feel like there's a bigger upside with Fulton, then let's do it. I think our offensive line is going to be shaky at the start of the year, so we need as much talent there as possible.
Well, yeah, I think that they're going to be shaky, and they were shaky to start last year. I think if you look at that front five, you take that right guard position that's kind of in flux, you're looking at Eric Fisher, left tackle, Jeff Allen, left guard, Hudson, center. Right guard is a big question mark, and then your right tackle, I think you're looking at Don Stevenson. Mm-hmm. But let me just say this, everybody screamed and hollered when Dorsey let John Asamoah walk to Atlanta and they let Jeff Schwartz walk to New York. How big of a genius will he look to be if the guy that he drafted in the 6th round steps up and starts at that position day one legitimately and excels. I mean, you think there's going to be some people eating crow talking about the Chiefs have lost?
But see, that's never how it goes. They'll always talk, and then even if someone comes in and fills the shoes, then you never hear from them again. You never see those people go, "Oh, I was wrong. I was way wrong." Like, that's never how it happens. That's the way you wish it is in the real world. But they'll just kind of that famous internet gif where Homer Simpson backs into the bushes. They just kind of disappear into oblivion, and you never hear from them again. But definitely, you hope that, I mean, that's why we draft people. You hope we can find those kind of guys, diamonds in the rough that can, when you get gutted like we did in the off season, that can hopefully fill some of those gaps.
Well, and it really, because, we're really, truly just going into the second year of this regime. And the first year, I don't want to say it doesn't count, because it does, but, when you're talking about a new GM, new head coach coming in and taking over a team at the end of the end season, the scouts from the previous regime have been scouting college players that whole year, and so it's really tough for, I think, obviously I'm not a GM and never have been, but I just think it would be tough coming in as a new GM, a new head coach, into a situation where you've got scouts that are working for the other guy, and you're trying to, and obviously, he had scouted his own people working for the Packers, the previous season, but I don't know. I guess I'm just saying that, this draft is really the one that I think a lot of people are going to look, because it was him scouting for the Chiefs, all year last year, and him really kind of doing the homework. So, I think it's going to be interesting. I think if this Fulton kid, there was a great feature up on the Kansas City Chiefs, actual webpage, kcchiefs.com today, by the new Chiefs reporter, BJ Kissel, good friend of ours, good friend of the show. Would hope to have him on as a guest at some point in time, but new reporter working for the Chiefs, but a feature on Zach Fulton and talking about kind of where he came from and how he came up and his coaching and whatnot. And he just said, I'm a nice guy off the field, but when I put that helmet on, I'm a monster. I turn into a monster, and I'm mean. And that's what that line needs, man. They need guys that are going to be mean, that are just going to put defensive tackles and defensive ends on their ass, and say, you're not going to touch the quarterback. You're not going to touch the running back. And that's what I want to see, man. And I would love for that kid. Oh, I would love for that kid to really not just, be like, well, you're the starter because everybody else sucked worse than you. Yeah. But I want that kid to win that job, to really earn that job, and to really step up. So I'm rooting for him. I really am, as we move into camp. So, defensive side, any roster battles you've got your eye on, or are you thinking we're pretty well set, or just defense in general?
Obviously, cornerback is the big one, that we talked about. I think that's the one I'm going to have my eye on the closest. Even so, like, if you just had me pick one position overall that I was the most concerned about, it's definitely that one. I think with wide receiver, Alex Smith, he likes to pass the ball around. We're going to get balls to people regardless. You know who makes that position. Cornerback's a little bit trickier. I think we really have to make correct decisions there and get people to fit in correctly in cornerback. So, I think it's just going to be exciting to see who can make plays, who does it big, and who lives up to kind of the namesake there.
I'm with you. I would say more so than a roster battle, I am looking forward to seeing how they plan on using D Ford when they already have two outside linebackers who can rush the quarterback.
But that's the beautiful part, man. You gave those two guys that rush the quarterback, let them play a series to where they're winded, and then you keep switching them out, and you're switching them out with somebody that's just as dangerous. That's what's amazing about having someone like him as a, let him learn and then let him, fill in the blanks there.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and maybe that's what they end up doing. They have Tom Bahali in, on first and second down, and then all of a sudden they throw D Ford. I mean, and like we talked about earlier, it's tough to say with the Chiefs because they never really stay in that base 3-4. In fact, there's been, articles written and stuff that during that Colts game, they didn't actually put a base 3-4 defense on the field one single down of that entire Colts game. It was always a different sub package. So it'll be interesting to see. I would love for an opposing quarterback to look up and all of a sudden on his left or on his right, he's got Tom Bahali and Dee Ford both staring at him. And then he looks over to the other side, he's got Justin Houston staring at him. And he looks down the middle, he's got Joe Mays and Derek Johnson staring at him. And you're going, what do you do?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely some formation in there that's kind of like the kill the rabbit formation where you're just sending, all the dogs at the same time.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, honestly, on defense, that's obviously as far as a roster battle goes, I think you're right. I think it's the cornerback roster battle. But just in particular, as we go into training camp and into preseason, I'm really looking forward to seeing this Dee Ford kid, and they keep talking about how he reminds everybody of Derek Thomas because he's got that quick first step. And it's like, you hear that and you're like, I mean, especially as Chiefs fans who've been fans of this team as long as you and I have, and, a lot of you listeners out there, remember watching old 58, sacking horse-faced John Elway, and it's like, you start talking about a kid that's ringing that, that bell, and is familiar like that, and you're just like, man, I can't wait to see what this kid's got. I really can't. Hopefully he lives up to the hype. We'll see.
Yeah, let's hope so. That's a big comparison.
And then the last roster battle, we mentioned it earlier, but the kicker. What do you think about that? What do you think about Succop having some competition in camp?
I think the only reason this is there is for money. They owe Succop. Succop's been outstanding. I've been behind that guy from the get-go. They say he's completed 84% of all his field goals. Is that what it was? And I mean, the guy's done incredible. He only had really one bad kick, in my opinion, all of last year. He missed that. It was like a 42-yard game winner. I can't imagine him getting cut, but if they're really hurting for money, if Jamal Charles is really going to push, the needles on him, and they're, having troubles formatting all these contracts, maybe that's why they go the route with Santos. Is they can go in and pay him probably about a third of what they're going to end up having to pay out to Succop for the next 2 years.
I'm going to disagree with you on this. I have liked Succop. I haven't really had a whole lot of reason not to like him. One of my problems with Succop is there's been a couple times where I've thought, he's kicking, a 50, 51, 52-yarder, and I mean, it just doesn't look like he's got enough leg behind it. And I'm thinking, those are kicks that as a professional kicker, you need to be able to hit. And this kid, his career long is 54. That's the longest one he's made in his whole career, 5 years. This kid Santos has got a 57-yarder under his belt out of college. So I'm not seeing anything wrong, and maybe it is, having to do with moving money around in cap space, and you might be absolutely right about that, but I don't think that there's necessarily anything wrong with bringing in a kicker to say, we're going to see what this kid's got, and if he's
bring him in all day long, but kicking those guys that can bust the huge, 65-yard field goals, they're all fine and dandy. They're great to have on your team, but kicking first thing that you have to do is consistency. You have to have somebody that's going to come in there and make it happen over and over again. He has proven that he's able to do that. That's why he's getting paid what he's getting paid. He hasn't really shown the problematic things that a lot of kickers have with the inconsistent kicking. So I can't imagine that they do that and take that over getting an extra 4 or 5 yards, in field goal range.
No, and I don't think that they necessarily will. But Santos was 21 for 21 in field goals his last year of college too. So I mean,
I don't know any Santos stats. I mean, if he really is a talent that we feel like we can do, I mean, let's
I did a piece on the Santos Succop kind of roster battle here a couple weeks ago for Bleacher Report, and yeah, he's He's 21 out of 21 his last year, and the 21st one that he made was the 57-yarder. So even with that kind of pressure on to make be perfect for the entire season, and he boots through a 57-yarder. And like I said, I'm not talking bad about Succop in the least. I like the guy. I think that he's a good teammate. Everything I've seen about him, you watch those little kind of video vignettes last season of, when the team was rolling, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, and they're walking back into the locker room. Succop's the first one high-fiving, saying good job to his teammates. And he is, relatively consistent as far as NFL kickers go. I mean, 84% is pretty decent. But if there's somebody that's better out there, it doesn't hurt my feelings that they're cheaper.
No. I mean, I definitely, if we can find something that is just as good or better, I mean, let's go for it. I just worry about, getting greedy for the deeper field goal ball if that's the reason why you're doing it. Just because, I think we've proven that we can move the ball across the field pretty damn well. It's just finishing is the problem for us. So I'm fine with having the guy who kicks the 30, 40-yard field goals because that's generally where we're at anyways.
Yeah. No, and like I said, I don't disagree. So as we move, towards the end of this show, I just really kind of want to get your take on the first couple days of camp. The quarterbacks, rookies, and vets have reported, have had a couple days of practice under their belt. The big story from today, Tuesday, was that Eric Fisher showed up a day early and started practicing. And Chris, I really kind of want to get your take on him. As far as he goes, what are you thinking about Eric Fisher? Are you thinking the kid's a draft bust? Do you think he's ready to make an impact? Can he fill Brandon Albert's shoes? I mean, he's already been given the left tackle position and said it's yours to play. What do you think?
Well, I was frustrated last year with, as touted as he was to come in and be that kind of big name star for us, the lackluster performance. So, I'm hoping, I think he needed to come in early. He needed to show that he's willing to put in the effort and learn, the system. And, I think at least they're showing support in him. They're going to be like, there's the position, it's yours to lose. And, he can come in and hopefully make it happen. I think it's too tough to say for busts. I have stepped back from that a little bit because I was the very first person that was yelling down Poe's throat when, in Poe's first year. I was mad that, they took him in the first place because I didn't know who he was. And then when he didn't perform, I got upset, and I was the one yelling his name, why, we ended up taking him just because I was so sour over previous draft picks busting with us. So, I'm hoping give a guy a little bit of time, see what he does, let him, take this year and, hopefully stay healthy. I know he kind of had some injuries there at the start of the year that maybe hopefully nagged him throughout the year or something. And as he knows the system a little bit more, can come in and get things done.
Yeah, I got faith in him. He had shoulder surgery in the off season. He actually today in an interview said he is at 315, which is about I think 30 or 40 pounds.
Like 290.
Yeah, so he's up like 30 pounds from last year, and there was a lot of guys that I respect their opinion, especially when it comes to linemen. One of them on Twitter. Sully, who does another podcast, the Chiefs Brez. Hey brah, I don't know. Anyway, but he's played some college ball as a lineman. Definitely got a lot of respect for him and his opinion on linemen. And one of the things that he has said repeatedly was Eric Fisher needed to spend time in the weight room, and I think that he's done that. And I think that his increased size shows that, and I think he's ready to work and hopefully prove a lot of people wrong who are already starting to call him a bust. We're starting last year. I think guys were a little hard on him. He was playing out of position. There's guys that'll say, or pundits that'll say that, left tackle, right tackle doesn't matter. It's an outside lineman position. I disagree with that.
Oh, yeah.
when the ball is snapped and you're a left tackle, you're going to step off with one foot, whereas if you're a right tackle, you're going to take the first step with the other foot. And I mean, just something as simple as that when you're talking about repetitive and muscle memory, it's going to take a while to learn that. And, I think putting him back into his quote-unquote natural position, I think that we're going to see huge I won't say huge. I think we're going to see improvement in his play this year. I hope it's so. I'm hoping.
Yeah, let's hope so. With as shaky as the offense line is going to be, we're definitely going to need somebody that's really stepping up. So
it's true. It is very true. So it's here, brother. I mean, all the speculating and everything else has come to pass. I mean, as we sit here right now, we are talking. It is Tuesday, July 22nd. We are 2 weeks from. Well, 2 weeks from this Thursday is the Chiefs' first preseason game against the Bengals. 2 weeks.
When are you getting all packed up?
I thought you'd never ask. The wife and I and our 2 daughters will be driving north from San Antonio, Texas, to Kansas City, Missouri, or I should say St. Joseph, Missouri, where the training camp is being held. We're leaving Thursday right after work, so we're going to drive all the way up. We'll be there like Friday afternoon, hang out in St. Joe. Check out the facility and stuff, and then we'll be at training camp all day on Saturday and all day on Sunday, and then come home Sunday after the practice, get home probably late Sunday night. So that is the plan. Yeah, we looking forward to it. Saturday, we picked Saturday. It's the family day. It's the day, I guess, when all the players will stay out after practice and sign autographs. So I got a bunch of swag to hopefully get some ink put on, and I'll be able to share that with you folks, you fine folks listening to this podcast next week, and let you know what how that went down. But yeah, I definitely if you're a listener of the show, I'll be there. So come find me, say hi. I'd love to meet everybody who's listening. If you love us, hate us, whatever. I'd definitely love to meet everybody. So. Chris, final thoughts as we head into the first full weekend of Chiefs training camp?
I don't know. I think we covered it all, man. Just excited to kind of see where we go with these positions and see how things wrap up, get into preseason, and let a couple of these roster spots battle out and see how we have it set up. I'm just excited that we're close, and every single week it's like, oh man, getting closer and closer, and pretty soon we'll be talking week 1.
Yeah, well, in speaking of that, my thing is, please, Chiefs fans, join us next week as we actually get to preview our first Chiefs game of the 2014 season. Because not only will we recap my visit to St. Joe and talk about that, obviously give you all the Chiefs training camp news that's out and available, but we'll be previewing we'll be talking about the Chiefs Bengals too. So it's all coming up.
And we'll be talking about the Justin Houston signing.
Let's hope. Let's hope that is what we're talking about, because I've had Houston contract on our show schedule for our show prep for the last 3 weeks, and there hasn't been need to really talk about it. Same with Smith signing, and now we got to add the Jamal Charles contract watch to all that as well. So we'll leave you with that one with Chiefs fans. Again, want to thank you very much for listening to Chief Central Radio on the Pro Football Central Radio Network. If you're listening on iTunes, please make sure that you go in, give us a thumbs up, give us a good review. We're also available on Stitcher Radio. If you are listening on Stitcher, or you want to go check out Stitcher, it's a great site. If you're non-iTunes compatible per se, and make sure you give us a good review, give us a thumbs up there. Feel free to leave a comment. Make sure you're following Duff at Gully as Duff, Gully as Duff on Twitter, or follow me, Jason Seibel, and my Twitter handle is JFSEIBEL. Follow us on Twitter. Make sure you're following the show account at Radio Chiefs, and I think that's all the promo stuff we need to talk about. For my good friend Chris Kilduff, I'm Jason Seibel saying keep it red, keep it yellow. Good night, Chiefs fans. Keep it Chiefs.